Okay, so welcome everyone. Today is Wednesday, October 21st, and this is the Cluster API office hours. Cluster API is a subproject of SIG Cluster Lifecycle. During this meeting, please make sure you follow the CNCF Code of Conduct, which you can find on this document if you haven't read it at the top. And please be sure to raise your hand if you'd like to speak and add any agenda items to the agenda right here. So to kick it off, I think Vince has a PSA, so I'll hand it off to Vince.
Sure, thank you. So this is something that I just wanted to point out, Alpha 4 already has a lot of changes merged in. During Alpha 2 to Alpha 3, we kind of wrote this migration document that I linked here, and it was extremely useful. I gathered also some feedback, so probably going forward, what we want to do, we should backfill the changes that have already been merged to a similar document, and two, require that all the new breaking changes document their changes within this document. So this is more a call out for both reviewers to watch out for breaking changes, and for providers, implementers, that the changes that are coming in could be extensive, and will probably be extensive. So yeah, take a look at that document, and if you have any questions, reach out.
Thanks, Vince. Yasin, you have a question?
Yeah, it's more of a no. So for CAPV, we started also documenting these breaking changes, or at least the ones we're planning. And the goal is to make it also a living document for anyone consuming the provider. So it might be something good to adopt also across providers, so that the end users know what is going to change.
Yeah, great point. And the one in CAPI, I assume, is more of a for providers, or who's the target audience, Vince? Is it more the users or the providers who are going to be adopting these changes, or both?
This is probably more for providers. This the document that I wanted to point out. But yeah, for users, hopefully Cluster Kernel Upgrader will take care of most of those things in terms of just upgrading. And if there are API changes, those should definitely be documented.
Yeah. And is there an existing living doc for V1 Alpha 4, or is that to be created?
It's to be created. We have merged a few PRs in. I have to collect the changes that have already been merged. But I'll probably start at the end of next week or the week after that.
Okay. Maybe it'd be a good idea to just create a blank document, even if it doesn't have all the changes so far, just so people can add their stuff in the next few weeks as they create changes.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Any other questions on this topic? Okay, moving on to discussion topics. And I think we have a demo to start with. Fabrizio, do you want to do this at the beginning, or do you want to finish with the demo?
Up to you. It's fine, both for me.
We can start with that if you're ready. I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
And you should be able to share.
So are you seeing my terminal? Okay, so I have a cluster with 3 control plane machine nodes. And basically what I'm trying to do in this demo is first trying to make one of these node fails and show how remediation will work out. So in order to do so and make it visible, I have a slightly modified version of the code in my PR, and basically I'm supporting 2 annotation. One annotation basically blocks the remediation. So basically the code enter into the remediation path, but it blocks before issuing the remediation. This will allow us to see one step. And the second, I have also another annotation that basically blocks the machine from being deleted. So we will see basically the annotation being, the remediation being started but not completed. So this will allow us to follow a little bit. So, and I'm applying those annotation on one of on those three machines. And now I'm in order to basically kick off the remediation, I'm apply a label. So this machine will be basically health checked by a MHC, which is running in the cluster. So now I apply this annotation, and MC basically is configured in order to consider the machine unhealthy immediately. And basically what happened? It happened that MHC applied a condition to a machine saying that the node is unhealthy, and the node is unhealthy because a condition is reporting false for more than 15 minutes, 15 seconds. Also, MHC applied the owner remediated annotation telling to KCP, please take care of this machine which is failing. And as you can see, also the unhealthy message bubble up to the control plane and to the cluster. Okay. Now, if I unblock the remediation process, KCP will start taking care of the remediation. So it is unblocked, and now KCP is taking care. And basically, what happened? What happened that KCP started processing the remediation and is saying remediation is in progress, and in fact, remediation in KCP is deleting the node. As you can see, the node is being deleted, and also the infrastructure machine are being deleted at this stage. And so if I unblock deletion, so I let the process to complete. Basically, the machine is being deleted. Okay. And and then when the machine is deleted, basically a normal scale up process kicks in, and so we have KCP restoring the third control plane node. And I block here because I know it is not easy to follow, so I block here if there are questions, and then I will show another use case where remediation cannot happen because there are failing LTCD nodes. So are there some questions? Sorry, but I don't see the chat.
Very cool. I don't see any hands raised right now. Anyone have questions?
Okay, so I move on in the second example. In the second example of remediation, now I'm basically what I'm doing. I'm creating a critical situation. So I'm going to this control plane machine and basically making a TCD to fail. And then I will try to remediate another machine, but this won't be possible. This will not be possible because if I do remediate the machine, I will lose quorum. So what I do expect is that KCP remediation simply blocks and inform the user I cannot remediate because this operation can lead to losing the quorum. So in order to make a TCD, one TCD fail, I go into one of the machine. I move away the manifest for the TCD static pod. And I just check that the TCD pod is being deleted. So we are down to only 2 TCD members running. Okay. There is a PR out that now, as you can see, it is not visible in condition, but there is a PR out from CDEV that will make basically the TCD member failing visible in condition as well. But now I'm going to, so this one is the machine with TCD failing. I'm trying to remediate this one. So I'm basically forcing this machine being remediated. And what happened? It happened that XCD KCP will process, wait for remediation, hopefully soon. And this is the demo god. Okay, so here we have. Basically, KCP is telling me that it cannot remediate this machine because this could result in a TCD losing quorum. Because we have this main failing, and if I delete also this one, basically I will lose quorum. And that's all for my demo.
This is awesome. I think we have a question from Joe. I don't know if you're muted, Joe, but we can't hear you. Okay, Vince, do you want to go first?
I don't have anything. I think there's Andy
Oh,
afterwards.
Andy, sorry, I thought you were raising your hand.
Thanks, Cecile. Just a quick question, Fabrizio. The second machine in your list there, that's the one that you manually deleted the static pod, right?
Exactly, yes.
Is that supposed to report unhealthiness in a condition somewhere eventually?
Yes, it is supposed, but this is in another PR.
Okay, thanks.
Joe, did you still want to say something? Okay, maybe having technical difficulties. Yeah, this is really cool. I had a question. So did you install a machine health check on your cluster in order to be able to do this?
Yes, I started a machine health check, which is configured in order to basically make a node fail immediately. But this is only for testing. So you can have your checks targeting the control plane machines and configure it as you do for the nodes.
Okay, sounds good. Cool, and also very nice UI or like presentation of the overview of the cluster. I'm sure I'm not the only one who can't wait to be able to use this as well. Very polished. All right, any other questions?
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. I had a question. Is this quorum check pluggable? Like, for example, if I had a Rook cluster and I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose quorum of my monitors, how would I do that?
These checks works only if TCD is managed by KCP and currently checks all the machine which are managed by KCP, because we are assuming all of them are hosting a KCP, an TCD member. So it is not pluggable because it is designed basically on how the KCP manages the TCD members.
Right, right. But what if I had my Rook cluster managed by KCP?
Sorry, I don't understand the word.
So you know, I could host a Rook cluster on K8's nodes, right? And so how would I, you know, use the same process there?
Jason is saying something in the chat about you could use the upcoming external remediation if your root cluster is managed by a machine deployment.
Okay.
I don't have details about that, but yeah, I think is the proposal merged for that? Or I think so. Yeah, Andy, did you have something?
Yeah, so KCP is kubeadm control plane, and it specifically uses kubeadm to manage machines that represent a Kubernetes control plane. So I would second what Jason suggested in chat. If you have Rook deployed on your cluster, that is managed totally separately from the Kubernetes control plane. So you would need external remediation or some other way to deal with that.
Sure, but you could in theory run the Rook cluster hyperconverged with the control plane, right?
Yes. So your question then is, I have multiple things running on my control plane, and I want to not only consider etcd health, I want to consider other things before deleting a node. I think probably pod disruption budgets would be useful there to prevent draining a node until you've got the right number of replicas elsewhere. I don't really think this is a kubeadm control plane problem.
Okay. It just seems like it's a common pattern of wanting to check a quorum at the higher application layer before remediating.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe it's worth following up on. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Fabrizio, for the demo. Let's go back to our agenda. All right. Actually, Fabrizio, you get to go again. I think you have the first topic.
Okay. Okay. So yesterday or the day before, we got pinged by people in SIGA release because they are failing jobs from from the GCP provider or from the Kappa provider, and yeah, I wanted only to point out this and thanks Carlos for starting taking a look at this.
So for what it's worth, the CAB-Z conformance periodic jobs are still passing, if that helps. But I think it'd be a good idea to have, yeah, either like a periodic triage or maybe like alerting in some way, so we can pay more attention to those failures.
For those specific jobs that is alerting, we are getting the message in the SIGA release email. And for specific for CAPG was like they are like quite different from the other providers. And they was like building the conformance testing using the Kubernetes KK and using Bazel and using a lot of other stuff behind the scenes. And looks like to build the end-to-end testing for conformance change a little bit, and the script was like out of date. There's a PR in place to fix CAPG. For Kappa, I made a comment in the Slack channel. I'm just waiting maybe for Andy if he can comment there. Like there's some it's missing a template. That's why it's failing.
Jason?
Yeah, I was just going to say with Fabrizio's work to kind of create a more unified dashboard of the various conformance jobs that we have out there, that would probably be, a good tool that we can use to kind of triage any issues with those tests during this meeting on a regular basis.
Yes, definitely. And then I think we've also talked about using those as release informing for CAPI itself at some point, which would also be a natural step. And then we have a suggestion in the chat to add the SIG cluster lifecycle mailing list to the alerts if they don't have it yet. That's a good point, because if it's just alerting SIG release, the CAPI maintainers might not be aware of it. Jason?
Yeah, so previously we set up a separate Google group for those alerts so that they don't necessarily create too much noise on the SIG cluster lifecycle list. I can dig up what that group is and add that to the meeting notes. So
Sounds great, thank you. Any other comments, thoughts, concerns on this topic? Okay, thanks Carlos again for stepping up and investigating, and let us know if you need any help on that front. All right, Jason, you have the next one.
yeah, so following up from the meeting last week, I'm trying to schedule a kickoff meeting for anybody who's interested in working on the load balancer provider proposal. So there's a link to both the issue, if you're not familiar with it, and to the doodle where I'm trying to find the best time for next week to try to hold that kickoff meeting.
Great. Do you want to give a bit of an overview quickly for people who aren't familiar with this effort or what it's trying to solve?
Sure. Yeah. So the basic idea is that we currently have the idea of a load balancer provider within the vSphere provider, and there are other kind of provider implementations that can't rely on kind of a default cloud managed load balancer. So the idea is kind of bring up the load balancer to kind of a first class provider within Cluster API itself. And then that gives the ability for other providers similar to vSphere that don't have like a default like built-in load balancer, they can kind of share common implementations across those. It also will open up the ability to more easily swap out load balancers even for cloud providers. So like in AWS right now, we use an classic ELB. It would potentially give us the ability to create like an NLB equivalent that could be swapped out relatively easily. So yeah, that's that.
Thanks. Yeah, so if that sounds interesting to you, you can sign up on the Doodle to give your available times and check out the issue. And yeah. I don't see any hands raised, so we're going to move on to the next topic. Jan, you want to talk about scaling KCP?
Yes. Last week I brought this out that I opened the Google Doc for this feature, like, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago. This is more like a question because it haven't, like I said, and asked people to comment that the Google Doc last week, and it doesn't collect that much comments anymore. So what is the current kind of a policy? How long we should keep this open, or what are we expecting to from these Google Docs? Or so I'm kind of asking, is it too early to open a PR for this proposal? Maybe it would generate more discussion in as a PR. I don't know, just wanted to know.
So I'm not familiar with the proposal itself, but is it targeting V1 Alpha 4?
Yes.
Okay, great. So there is a proposal process documented in the project. And I think the general guidance is to leave it open as a Google Doc for a while, unless there are like any big blocking comments, and then opening it as a PR. And I think Vince just shared it. And it should be in the implementable state. But other than that, I don't see any blockers or opening a PR if there hasn't been too much movement on the Google Doc.
Yeah, I thought so. So if we don't have any other thing on the agenda, I would like to quickly ask, because I got the comment about the in-place upgrade. Obviously, it is the different thing, but have you ever discussed anything about could we have an in-place option also while we are upgrading? So basically, for example, in bare metal, we might have the certain disks attached to the servers that we might want to reuse during the upgrade, so that we won't take a new fresh server. We probably want to have this new machine to have the same node that the earlier one, but upgraded. Have you discussed anything about the in-place upgrade, or is it even or should we kind of handle that in infrastructure provider level?
Yes, so it is a topic that comes back every once in a while. If you search through the doc, I just found the notes from last time that there was a pretty extensive discussion. I think you can find the recording.
Yeah,
it was from September 2nd, but I think Jason has a comment, so I'll let him speak.
Yeah, so I was just going to say it would be very difficult with the current implementation to add in-place upgrades, mainly because we rely on a lot of in general, rely on all of the binaries to be pre-baked into the image as part of the workflow. That said, I would expect it would be, I would expect right now it would take another kind of control plane implementation to be able to implement in place. There shouldn't be anything that would prevent that, but it hasn't been something that we've talked about supporting because of various reasons that I'm sure are linked in that discussion Cecile mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually good to know. So we probably need to find a other kind of way to implement this, maybe in Metal Tree, how we select the nodes, and yeah. So this is good to know, even if it's not even being think of. So I'm not staying to wait for the discussion to go further, at least right now. Thanks, Jason.
All right. So unless anyone has any topics, I think this is the end of the agenda. Just a reminder that if you have any current proposals that are open, please make sure they're in this list if they're still in the Google Doc form so we can track them. And if you are looking at this list and something is interesting to you, please make sure you review them. And yeah, until next time. Andy, did you want to add something?
Yes, one quick follow-up on the alerting around the test failures. We do have a Google group that's linked in the notes right now, and there's a few of us who have ownership rights on that. So if you are interested in receiving alerts that anytime there are failures from Prowl related to cluster API jobs, please feel free to reach out to me. And basically I need your name and your email address, and I'll be happy to add you.
Great. Just a question, is this supposed to be targeting only the core cluster API test jobs, or is it appropriate to also alert on infrastructure
right now,
end-to-end?
I see alerts from CAPI, Kappa, CapG. So I would say everything at this point, given what's currently in there.
Great. Cabsy will join the party then. All right. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.